Okay, thanks for joining us again on a veteran through a V2VG podcast, family through service. Kind of flubbed it on that one a little bit.
It's no worries.
But it's been a long couple days. It's towards the end of the week. It's Thursday.
Yeah, you're allowed one or two mistakes a week, so we're okay.
It's true. It's okay. It's okay. So we're going to change it up a little bit and do some military slangs and regional
stuff,
and regional
right?
slang.
So,
just to see, well, first of all, to see how much we know, and things have changed in the military a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
And to see how much has stayed in the military.
Yeah.
Since the inception of our times, and then regional dialect.
And it would just be
like, what does sucker mean? What does pop mean to you and to us?
Yeah,
because we were both born in different places and grew up in different places, roughly.
Yeah, and plus there are things we just don't know what stuff is called, and it'd be nice to know some of the actual names, right?
Yeah.
We
have a little advantage from being in the military, because the military is a melting pot.
Yes, very true.
So we'll go from there. So you want to start it off, and let's see what we can do.
Okay, so this is a good one, because I didn't know this had a name, but like when you get hungry and you get rumble in your stomach, it's actually called a wamble.
A wamble.
W-A-M-B-L-E. So it's not quite the pain hunger, but it's, your
That's
stomach
the
makes some noise.
kind of,
yeah.
So my stomach's growling. It's actually a wamble.
Yeah.
A wamble.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't.
So there's actually a term for it.
Yeah, right. That's
so
what's cool.
It's not grumbling or growling. It's wambling. All right, fair enough. So here's a military slang, and see if you know a bolo. What's a bolo for the military?
Oh, I have no idea.
So I didn't know what this was either. Bolo. Apparently, according to this website, a bolo is someone who can't pass marksmanship training. You're a bolo.
Oh.
But I don't know what bolo stands for. Like, if it's an acronym, it just says someone who can't pass marksmanship training.
Which of course is interesting. But we're going to stick with the same word for the police. Let's be on the lookout for.
Be on the lookout. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought bolo was a law enforcement term. Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Be on lookout. So it has a double meaning in our context for veterans to veterans group,
which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. What else you got?
Oh, this is a cool one, and I knew there was a name for it, but I never knew what it was. So the little pieces of at the end of shoelaces are normally plastic or
that
metal.
Bind it together.
Yeah. It's called an aglet.
An aglet.
So A-G-L-E-T, aglet.
And that's the piece that you put through the little circles.
Yep, exactly. So it's really cool.
That's neat. I know you know what this is. A boot. Someone who's in the military, like, oh, that guy's a boot.
Yeah, it's normally the rookie, the newest person there.
Now, here's the thing. On this website, it says a boot is a recruit still in boot camp. That's not what I know of as a boot. A boot to me is someone who's already passed basic training, but still has that basic training mentality. Like, they'll be at Chipotle standing at parade rest.
Yeah,
or at McDonald's at parade rest making their order, and they're wearing their combat boots with their jeans and, tucked in.
Yeah.
Like, you're a boot, dude. Like, fucking chill.
So when I was in the Marines, you were a boot until one of three things happened. You were in for a full year. You deployed, or somebody younger out of, like, someone more recent from boot camp has come in.
Cycled in.
Yeah, so
I guess it's a lot like boot or cherry for the Vietnam era guys.
Yeah.
Like, if you've heard Vietnam era people say, "Oh, this dude's a cherry," the new guy.
Yep.
Right. All right, what you got?
So this is the one I just told you. The dot above lowercase I or lowercase j actually has a name, and it's called the title, just like a title of a book spelled the same way. But that is the name of that
it actually
dot.
has a title. It has a title, and it is title.
I was trying not to do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're going to know this one. What's a devil dog?
Oh, that's a Marine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a term for a member of the U.S. Marine Corps. Devil dogs are Marines.
Yeah, that's comes from...
Or a very tasty pastry.
That's from
If you're
German.
Portuguese.
That's originated in German. Teufelhunden, which is a hound from hell. Another good one is leatherneck is another good name.
Leatherneck is another name for a Marine.
Yeah, and I think that's even older, and that's from
like
we'd
World
have-
War One, right?
We had the collars, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not anything I've actually seen in person, other than pictures of books and whatnot.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was,
That wasn't fair.
so
But Devil Dog, Leatherneck, Marines.
Yep.
All right, what you got?
Okay, well, this is cool. So, what the condition is called if your second toe is longer than your big toe.
On your foot, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously,
Either of your. Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's called Morton's toe.
Morton's toe.
Yeah, Morton apostrophe like possession S toe.
I didn't think that it was a condition. I thought it was just a type of toe.
I mean, I don't know if it's you know what I mean. It's
That's
a
weird.
situation, but there's a name for it.
There's a name.
That's cool.
I think, matter of fact, I don't know. My wife's feet are not like that, and my feet might be like that.
Next time we'll just whip off our shoes and
You want to see? You want to see our feet? I know there's some freaks out there who want to see our feet. All right. Let's see. All right. I don't know if you know this one. Vietnam era people might know this. Diddy Bopper.
Diddy, but I don't know.
I'm going to give you a hint.
Morse code?
Morse code.
Okay.
It's a signals intelligence radio operator who used Morse code.
I never would have guessed that.
Yep, it's a Diddy Bopper.
Let's see.
We don't really use Morse code anymore so much because we have very highly encrypted radio transmissions, but I do think that in the Intel Core they teach it because, frankly, because it's not taught anymore.
And it's a good thing too, no, because you never know, right? I mean, you just
flash.
never know.
I think Special Forces they
can
teach
do
that in Special
lights
Forces.
and- yeah.
Yeah. So what you got over there for?
Oh, this
your,
is a good one for both of us because we're both avid music listeners,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize there was a title for this, but misheard song lyrics.
Okay.
It's called a mondegreen, Mondegreen.
A mondegreen. So when you mishear a song lyric, that means you mondegreened.
So if you're, singing a song and you're singing the wrong lyrics, because
You're like, no,
Yeah.
motherfucker. No, it's not. It's a
it'd
mondegreen.
be like, instead of we were just doing the joke about turn around,
That's right.
like, so if you're hearing something different,
It's a mondegreen.
So,
I didn't know there was actual. See, this is kind of neat because you don't know there's actual words. Like, here's one that's not. It's off the book. It's when you laugh at somebody else's misfortune.
we talked about this.
We talked about. I think it's
remember
called
what it's
Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
When you.
Which is funny because probably a day after we talked about this, I was giving Jen shit for laughing at somebody who got hurt or something. I'm like, you're always laughing at people's misfortunes,
Yeah. But people do. But anyway, expectant, not pregnancy in the military term. Expectant. I'll give you a hint. Medics use this term.
I don't know.
Expectant is a soldier who's expected to die from their injuries. Expectant.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, I guess there's that. Oh, this person's expectant. Oh, congratulations. No.
It's the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yep.
You're
You're born to die, and you're about to go to the other end of the fucking thing. All right, what do you have over there?
How about another military term? How about LT? Oh, the LT is coming.
Oh, the lieutenant.
A lieutenant.
A lieutenant. And typically, LT refers, at least in the Army, refers to a butter bar. And another one, butter
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah.
What's a butter bar?
Yeah, it's
A second lieutenant.
Yeah,
It's
it's 01.
It's an 01. A butter bar. Second lieutenant is the lieutenant with the gold bar.
Yeah.
The butter bar.
Typically
it's the
the
first
boot.
officer. It's the boot of the private of the officer world. The ones who know it all but
Don't know anything.
don't know anything. FNG.
I know this one. Fucking new guy.
Fucking new guy. The Yeah, I mean, that says it all. Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I think this is
cherry,
it's
the
just
boot.
good for, people who are listening, who maybe or watching, who are caregivers or maybe children or parents of service members or veterans, and they hear these things and don't ever know what it means, like an LZ.
A landing zone.
A landing zone, right?
Yeah.
So typically it's a designated spot. Sometimes is designated with a flare or something of that nature, smoke or something.
Yeah.
But
over in the desert, it was typically smoke or IR if it was at night. But at LZ, clear the LZ. Make sure it's either clear of debris or clear of power lines or whatever.
Or enemy combatants. It's everything. Yeah.
So just clear. Our hot LZ, meaning it's being shot. It's being shot at. It's under fire. It's not a friendly, safe place to land for the helicopter crew.
So it needs to be a very fast. In
and out, get to what you need and go. FOBIT. You hear that? FOBIT is maybe Vietnam era, but it's definitely a new, a current term.
I don't know.
FOBIT is a soldier FOBIT stands for Forward Operating Base Soldier.
Okay.
Who stays there and it says hasn't seen military action yet. Here's the thing about a FOBIT. When we are in asymmetrical warfare, like in the desert or in Afghanistan, the enemy typically attacks forward operating bases.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't agree with this definition that says it hasn't seen military action yet.
Maybe that's the typical.
I think FOBIT more means who doesn't go out on patrol with a combat arms unit, infantry or whatever.
Chances are one of the reasons the FOB, the forward operating base, is hit a lot is not just for the militaristic logistics of hitting that base, but there's a strong chance that most of the people in that area are not combat ready. I mean, most of them are intelligence.
But they're also forward, so you also have your infantry patrols based there and intelligence. So it is a target, so it does get mortared and attacked quite often. So yeah, they have seen military action, just not on patrol typically. But a FOBIT is a derogatory term for someone who doesn't go out on patrol and kick indoors.
That actually reminds me, and we were both called this. How about a POG?
A POG. P-O-G, but you still pronounce it POG, not POG, like the fucking game. A POG is a person other than a grunt.
Yeah, right.
An infantryman. It's
a way for grunts to try and feel special about what they do.
It's a way for them to feel special and to know that when they get out, they have no commercial skills to apply to the real world, per se. So marketable skills. Yeah. But that's okay, because there's a meme around. There's a guy cleaning out a porta potty with a big hose, and it says, "And I told that POG," and and it just says ... and he's scooping out shit from a thing. Yeah. But look, everybody in the military has their job, and I respect infantry highly. But if they're going to call me a POG, I'm going to call them, infantry so easy that Bergdahl could do it. And if you know who Bergdahl is, then
you're right.
And Manning.
So
Chelsea Manning. And I don't know this term. You might. A grape.
A grape? Oh, no, I don't know.
So this says grape is a term with different meanings in each branch of the military. In the Navy, apparently it's a soldier, a sailor, who refuels the aircraft. In the Air Force, it's an individual who makes a task look easy. In the Marines and the Army, the grape is your head. But I've never heard of the grape. I've heard of it as a dome.
Yeah, I've never heard it as pertaining to an individual for whatever job.
And then, of course,
that's interesting.
Of course, you said grunt, which is an infantryman in the U.S. Army or U.S. Marine Corps.
Yeah, and that's the infantry guys. It's it's kind of a way for us to dig at infantry guys, call them grunts. Because that's all they're good at is,
knuckle dragging. And
so it's just
we all dig at each other, our MOSs and stuff. Like whatever, it's all in good fun and whatever.
But over there. So let's do a couple more and we'll do the time thing.
Sure.
How about you mentioned how about pop? So I'm gonna go get a pop. What is
a pop? Oh, a pop or soda pop is what we would call in I think New England a Coke.
Yeah,
It's ubiquitous for a soft drink.
and a lot of times it's from the ones in the containers, not so much from like a restaurant. It wouldn't
Yeah,
be
like from a
fountain.
can or a
Yeah,
or a
it
bottle.
would be a bottle or a can typically, because
Yeah.
then they would just say a fountain drink.
Yeah.
Typically.
So a pop, like my grandfather
big in
who
Pennsylvania.
lived in the Midwest in Missouri, called it a pop, and we call
Oh,
it
yeah.
Coke. And if you say Coke to them, they mean Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And so if I say, "Oh, can I have a Coke?" They would get you Coca-Cola. So I would say, "Can I have a soda?" They'd say, "Oh, soda pop. Okay, what kind?"
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I prefer Pepsi over Coca-Cola. Now we just lost half of our viewers.
Right. I mean, you know.
The Cola Wars.
Right.
So
Especially
we have
now with things being said. What's another one?
See, maybe you know this one. What's a polywog? Polywog.
Pollywog? I don't know.
A Navy sailor who has not crossed the equator yet.
Ah, so it's kind of like a boot.
For the
Sailor.
Navy. Yeah.
Right. Interesting, yeah. I figured it had something to do with the Navy, but I couldn't figure out exactly what.
And there's so many military terms and jargon. I mean we're talking right now. We're talking jargon, but there's a lot of acronyms that you might. And we've thrown in some acronyms like
goodness, yeah.
like LZ. Like there's AWOL, which
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard. Absent without leave.
Which is actual criminal. So
It's criminal. But I mean, there's a lot of acronyms that you might know from your veteran friends and family who you hear them throwing around. And you know what? Don't be ashamed to ask them, "Hey, I don't know, what does that mean?" Because
please,
they'll be
yeah.
happy to tell you what that means.
They might know the whole history of that, which is pretty cool. Like the whole 9 yards. A lot of people don't know where that comes from.
Yeah. And that's a term that civilians use.
Yeah, and you know, so back was it Vietnam?
World War
II.
World War II, yeah. Even before
The
Vietnam.
machine gun belts of ammo were 9 yards long. You
So
know?
give them the whole 9 yards meant just
Bring the whole ammo.
just fucking shoot that.
Yeah,
And it was
so-
a canvas belt. So I mean, it's super cool.
Okay, how about you want to do a couple more? I don't know where we're at for time.
Let me see what we got. We have 1740. We're doing good.
Okay, so we'll use this one as a way to get into time and alphabet. How
Sure.
about 0 dark 30? What does that mean?
0 dark 30 means for civilians 12:30 midnight.
Also, anytime before the sun comes up for
Or
people in the military.
or it could be ubiquitous. It's dark out.
But technically speaking, as far as military time and the way we read time and understand time, it's midnight, 30 minutes after midnight.
Yeah, because
So-
military time is a 24-hour cycle. All right, it starts at. Here's the thing, right?
We talked about this
We talked about
yesterday.
it yesterday. It starts at. It's a 24-hour cycle, so it starts at 2400 or 0000.
So it really depends on how you want to see it.
How do you want to see it? When midnight strikes, if you look at a 24-hour clock on your watch or whatever, it zeroes across. So, is it 2400 or 0? The answer is what?
Exactly.
The
Yes.
answer is yes, it is. And there could be 0 dark 1, which means 1 minute past midnight. And then it goes up, 0100, 0200, 0300.
So it goes up to noon. It's 12.
Noon is
And
12. So if you
after
say
that-
1200, it's
After
noon.
that is when people get confused.
Yeah.
And all you're actually doing, if you are struggling with it, is take the time you're given in minus 12. So at 1 p.m. would be 1300.
Yep.
So if you took 13 and minus 12, you'd be at 1.
Yep.
And 1400, 1500, going all the way up to 2300 would be 11 p.m.
Yep.
And this is important for people like your mom, who has had a slight issue with
Twice.
time.
She doesn't go by 24-hour time on her clock, and most people don't.
No.
But in the summertime, early summer, it's bright out at say 7 o'clock in the morning, 07, and it's the same kind of brightness at 7 o'clock at night.
Exactly. Yeah.
So she had an appointment at a hospital, for example, at 1900 at 7 o'clock at night. So she got up from a nap and she went there and she was ready to go and all this other stuff. And they weren't open and she was confused. So she called the call center and they were like, "We're not seeing patients." And she said, "Why?" And she thought it was 7 a.m. in the morning to go to 8 a.m. 07 to 08, but it was at night. Yeah. And she's like, "What the fuck?" My alarm clock said 7 o'clock, but she didn't see the little dot, and it was a big clusterfuck. And Chuck and I were like, well, if you went by military time, 24-hour time, there's no question, because if it says 7, it's the morning.
Yeah. Didn't she do that with you guys? She like called you. It was like, "Hey, do you guys want some coffee?" And it was like 7:30 at night.
Yeah, and it was about the same time, and I was like, "Well, no, we don't want any coffee." And she said, "Well, okay, do you want to visit?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, for a little bit, but we're putting the kids down soon." And she's like, "Well, why?" I said, "It's gonna get dark soon." And she's like, "Are you fucking with me?" I said, "No, I'm not. It's night. It's gonna be nighttime." And she's like, "It's 7 at night, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yes." She's like,
"Yes,
damn
it is."
So there's a lot of people who are confused by that. I go a different route. Do it. I subtract 2 from it. 1300. I subtract 2. So 13 minus 2 is 11, and then it's ones, so I know it's 1 o'clock. So there's a lot of ways to do that, to determine your military time. Or you could just say 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's multiple ways to do it. Learn your ways to do the 24-hour time, and I think you'll be well equipped to handle. First of all, if you're going to join the military, it will give you a leg. It'll put you ahead of the curve a little bit.
Absolutely, and it is good too if you do traveling, right? So if you're traveling across even our time zone differences, and you have a smartwatch, it's going to change instantly.
Yes. Yep.
And if you're like mentally lagged due to like jet lag or whatever, you don't have to think as much. Where
it's like, okay, that's where we're at.
Now it's even worse if you travel internationally, right? If you go to like Japan,
now you're crossing the international date line.
Yeah, so it definitely could be useful on a grand scale of things as well.
And there's a reason the military uses it, right? It's not the military does a lot of things just for shits and giggles, but not this. The military is very big on time. Big on wasting time, but still big on time.
Yes, and
the other thing that the military has right is their alphabet for saying letters over the radio.
What is that called? I'm actually going to look it up.
Now, you've often come across people, like I'm sure you've been on the phone and you've spoken to people and they said, "How do you spell your last name?" Whatever. And you're like, "Oh, Carter." Oh, okay, C for cat, A for Aaron, R for Rasmussen, or whatever. And they're like, "Okay, so what is it, R?" Because people have differences in dialect and everything. Well, the military gets away from you having to think of a letter that starts, think of a word that starts with a specific letter. They have standardized standardized words that start with the letters of the alphabet. So everybody's on exactly the same sheet of music when it comes to that. So if somebody asks you, "Can you spell that out?" you use the same exact words that start with those letters, those corresponding letters, to spell it out. So everybody in all the branches of the military are on the same sheet of music. So if somebody says Alpha Bravo Charlie, it's A, B, C, for example. Yep. But it's the whole alphabet.
So yeah, it's called the Military Phonetic Alphabet.
Military Phonetic Alphabet.
I should probably remember that, but I mean, you just say the military alphabet, and I think we already kind of know. And you can find it out, but I mean, you hear it in movies and music, TV, and stuff. A lot of the time, you'll hear. Some of them more often. Normally A through D, you'll hear a lot. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta.
You'll hear what? Oscar Mike. Oscar Mike is OM. Well, what does OM mean? On the move.
Yeah.
Right?
Zulu is a big one you will hear. So that's Z.
Yep, Zulu is Z. You see how that is? Like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, A, B, C.
Yeah, and it's definitely helpful so that way you don't have to try and think, especially if you're dealing with a business thing already on the phone. You know, and to add to make it more stressful, if it's somebody who might be foreign and there's that type of a
language barrier. Yeah.
So it's good to have that because it's almost completely well known.
And it is a universal type of alphabet. And once you have, and again, if you're thinking of joining the military, learn that alphabet, those new phonetical alphabet. And again, that's just another bit ahead of the curve you'll be, because it's one less thing you have to memorize when you're in training, and you got to focus on all kinds of stuff, realistically.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
and this kind of gets beat into your head right in the boot camp. It's, you know, what unit are you with, what everything. Like, as soon as you're in boot camp, battalion you're in, all those things.
Yeah.
So, how about we do this? Why don't you spell your first name? And,
okay, so
and I'll do mine.
My first name is Eric, right? So it's Echo, Romeo, India, Charlie, E-R-I-C. Did I say that? India, Charlie, yeah. E-R-I-C.
Because
Echo,
you don't
Romeo,
have a K
India,
at
Charlie. Yeah, no K on the end of my name.
Yeah,
and
so my Chuck is Charlie Hotel Uniform Charlie Kilo.
Yep. So you
know,
see how that you say, and another thing is, so this is over the radio. So you got to think, when you're on the radio with somebody, it could be scratchy. They could have problems hearing because of gunfire, because of wind, because of machines driving, whatever.
Absolutely.
So if they don't hear the E-R-I-C or C-H-U-C-K, they might hear kilo, and then they'll be like, oh, kilo, okay, it's a K. You know what I mean? So it gives you a longer sound to connect with the letter. And there's a reason for these things.
And none of the two letters, their phonetic alphabet, sound the same.
Right.
So where you'll have B, C, and D all sound alike as letters, but Bravo, Charlie, Delta,
they're very different.
So if they don't get if there's a skip in some aspect of hearing it, chances are they'll still be able to understand what you're trying to relay.
What is X? Is X
X-ray?
X-ray? Yeah. Somebody was like, X is xylophone, and I'm like, well,
no.
yes, but not in the military.
Nope. X is X-ray. Another one that people W is whiskey. People forget about that one. Y is Yankee. Q is Quebec.
Yep, Quebec.
So,
yep.
Some of them are like very common things. Yeah, it sound right, and other ones are you're like F, like is Foxtrot. Unless you've been in the military, you probably never heard that before. So,
and you hear Whiskey Tango Foxtrot all the time. Which is, what the fuck?
And again, there's
WTF.
a movie called that. So with the title, I haven't seen it, but
So another thing is, and I think we can end it on, you hear a lot of like there's apparels, military apparel that says 9-line apparel. I think it's made by Grunt Style.
Yep.
9-line apparel, and it's
that's
usually
a veteran-owned program.
It's a veteran thing, and people ask, well, what is a 9-line? I've called a 9-line in for things. It's an evacuation thing. For injured, for wounded, 9-line. It usually shows a helicopter coming down or whatever. So what's 9-line? Step 1 is, so there's 9 steps, 9 lines, okay? 9-line means there's 9 lines on the form, or 9 steps that you take when you call on the radio to evacuate a casualty. Now, in a military, casualty does not necessarily mean the person's dead. Casualty is very often a wounded, an injured member of your unit or whatever. Step 1 is return fire or render the scene safe. Before attempting to call in a 9-line, the medevac, the scene has to be rendered safe for the Black Hawk or whatever bird to come in.
And that's obviously to make it so there's less to be injured, right?
You don't want to call in a medevac for a couple people and then have more people injured.
Yeah, or the pilot.
Or God forbid, the pilot or the aircraft crew, the helicopter crew be injured. Step 2 is care under fire. Once fire superiority has been established, medical personnel can begin care under fire. It doesn't mean eliminate the enemy. It just means you suppress them. Step 3 is determine the number of patients by type. So it doesn't mean by type, male, female. It means the severity of their injury. Step 4.
Yeah.
Step 4 is actually contacting the medevac channel, okay, and saying that you have X number of casualties, and these are their injuries, whatever. Step 5 is using the 9-line medevac format to call in the medevac, which is medical evacuation. That's what medevac stands for. The first 5 lines are the most important when calling a medevac, and the 4 can be relayed when the birds are in the air. Line 1 is a location. So this is the actual 9-line. The actual 9-line, the 9 steps to tell the medevac crew where you are. The radio frequency, call sign, and suffix. The number of patients by precedent, urgent, surgical, priority, routine, convenience. Whatever special equipment that's required, a hoist, a ventilator, whatever. The number of patients that need a litter or that are ambulatory. Ambulatory is...
So someone who's not able to walk on their own free will. So,
like if,
someone's legs blown off, or even just shot in the knee, or something where they, for some reason, they're not physically able to, on their own, move from point A to point B.
Yeah, so if they can get to the bird on their own or not. Line 6 is, what's the security situation at the pickup site? Are there no enemy troops in the area? Possible troops? Proceed with caution. Escort, armed escort required. Usually they'll bring in an Apache.
Yeah.
Line 7 is the method of marking the pickup site. Panels, pyrotechnic signals, smoke signals, none other, which is like an IR on a paracord, whatever. Patient nationality and status. Military, civilian, non-military, non-civilian, or EPW. Yes, we call medevacs for EPWs, enemy prisoners of war.
Absolutely. It's part of the Geneva Convention.
I don't think people realize that we actually do that.
Absolutely. Doss, that World War II veteran, they just made a
Desmond
movie
Doss,
he saved probably a third of the Japanese as much as he had Americans. So
think about it from that perspective. You're calling in a medevac, and you're putting so many more Americans' lives at risk to bring these people medical attention, and some of them are prisoners of war, EPWs, enemy prisoners of war.
Yes,
we do that, and I've seen it done. So this whole shit about how we're not going to get into that. So we even do that. And the last line number 9, is NBC contamination. Is it N, nuclear, B, biological, or C, chemical, and
that's like a whole type of warfare. Is typically it's in bombs or mortars,
artillery shells.
It's little tips that create some sort of a type of a gas or something that can affect, And I think the easiest way to try and understand this, and maybe a civilian situation, is if there's a domestic disturbance and the husband severely hurts the wife. Obviously, the EMT are not going to rush into the scene.
No, it's dangerous,
the police have to get there. They have to assess it. They have to secure and make sure that the perpetrator is, under arrest and out of the way before they can even consider having EMT. So just like on the civilian world, we have these steps. It's just far more in detail when you come into work, because there's more things that are regularly harmful.
Yeah, and the main, so the two thrusts of focus are protecting and securing the wounded so they can get treatment, and protecting and securing the helicopter that's coming in and its crew.
And it could be a convoy, it could be a Humvee, or
it could be. Typically, medevac is the helicopter. Typically, but you're right. It could be a ground crew.
In the streets of Afghanistan or Iraq, you're not really going to use a helicopter because you're not going to be able to land it.
Yeah,
so
it depends on the severity.
Convoy.
A lot of times it's a convoy, but I mean, if it's I'm not going to say it depends on the rank, but sometimes.
Sometimes it does, and
if your commanding officer gets wounded seriously, they're going to call in a helicopter to get him out.
Oh yeah,
guarantee you.
But it is good to read in black and white the way that we still want to protect and treat with some human dignity to our enemy, prisoners of war.
And I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes.
And we know it's not mutual. We know that is not the way it is for American soldiers.
No, but we do because we're Americans, and America has a standard to live up to, not only in the international community, but to ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And even to this day, as veterans, we try and uphold that in the way that we deal with things in our organization. So,
and that's why one of the reasons why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, folks, and we'll see you the next time.